All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. JL Scott Fishing and Eats. Hope everybody's doing well. We are going to recap finally what could be the end of what went down on Cayuga a few months back. I'm going to do non-video in this particular video simply because we got a lot of storms rolling through the area. I'm sure you guys have known. You can check out my Facebook page. You can see some kayakers and boaters needed to be rescued on the Potomac River because of the severe storms that we've been having last night and today. But I wanted to do this video because I don't think a lot of people have heard about the response from Spencer Sheffield's side. And I think it was a really, really great response. I mean, I know a lot of people have been waiting for a number of weeks to hear from Spencer, myself included, simply because, I knew it was a heavy burden on him. Remember, if you've watched previous videos, on my YouTube channel from the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals on the Potomac River, which is about a week after this Cayuga event in which Spencer Sheffield was DQ'd, and weeks later after the event. And I did some videos there from the Tackle, and there was some other, though. Matt Becker was there. There were other anglers that were also in the mix, potentially to be disqualified during the Cayuga event. It just came down. As you guys obviously all know now, Spencer was the only one who was penalized with a disqualification. And there's been a ton of speculation as to why that was, why that is, why others weren't. And it raises a lot of questions in terms of how these matters are handled. Also, the polygraph questions. I did a video on the polygraph questions. I told, the people that follow JL Scott Fishing and Eats that, two attorneys looked at those polygraph questions and thought that those polygraph questions were inappropriate questions. Those aren't the kinds of questions that, typically you get asked in a polygraph because they're ambiguous questions. And as everybody knows, Spencer Sheffield failed his polygraph, which could have been the justification why he was the only one disqualified. But again, it just bars speculation because we've been asked so many times by the powers that be to suspend disbelief. As I said before, that we're not supposed to believe what we saw with our own eyes. But in Spencer's case is a little bit different, because we didn't get to see the entire video. The entire video from the time Spencer caught that fish to bringing it to the boat, to struggling with getting it into the boat, and then what transpired afterward. We got a small snippet of a video that went viral that everybody saw, that was generated from the MLF live feed, from what I understand, and again, isn't really, and while Spencer admits here, it looked bad. It wasn't the full story. So you're going to listen here to the full story from Spencer's perspective on how that went down with over 3 days or so. Remember, he was in second place. And what's important to note, and I pointed this out weeks ago and was, kind of dismissed by the so-called experts in the fishing community, that even if you threw out those two fish that people had questions with, those two fish would not have changed his placement at all, or anyone else's in the standings. And so, again, whether that matters or not, I leave that up to you as a fan. But, to get disqualified, lose $45,000 over a fish that didn't even help you, and knew it didn't, and he knew it wasn't going to help him, it begs the question as to whether or not there was intentionality in actual, in air quotes, cheating. Okay, if he knew that fish wasn't going to help him, so here you go. I'm going to scroll down. I want you guys to take a listen to this. In case you haven't seen it, you can find it on the special Spencer Sheffield fishing page, as well as he gets ready to head to Saginaw Bay for the next round of the Bass Pro Tour.
Hi everybody, I want to get on here and give you my 2 cents on my disqualification that I got back last Monday. Been out of town. Me and my wife and the kids and my parents went on a long vacation. Didn't get back until earlier this week, and been a little under the weather. Starting to feel a little better. Got to leave out day after tomorrow to head to Saginaw Bay and fish the last BPT of the year. Looking very forward to that. It's going to be a smallmouth deal for me, obviously, on Lake Huron. Can't wait to get up there. But just kind of touch base on this. I haven't made a statement yet about it. Like I said, I've been gone and been a little sick, starting to feel a little better. But, it stinks. It really does. It's one of them deals. You kind of feel like you're in a movie or something, like, you've watched, you see somebody being trial for murder and they're going to prison for killing somebody that they didn't kill, and you actually know in the movie who did it. And that's kind of how I feel in this situation, knowing I'm an innocent man. I feel like I've proven that. But at the end of the day, I didn't have the final say in it, and it is what it is. I signed up to fish, and this is the way it's been called. I don't have to agree with it, but in order to go to the next tournament, I do have contracts, and it plainly states in there that if I do not go fish the next event, that I will not be eligible to fish any more Bass Pro Tour events in the future. That's not something I'm willing to give up. I mean, this is how I provide for my family. It's the only way I know how to provide for my family. And, it's created an amazing life for me and my kids and my wife in the last 5 years. We've been incredibly blessed, and it's just not something I'm willing to give up. I mean, I love our life. We've been able to leaps and bounds more than I ever thought we could ever go. And fishing has been a huge part of that. Like I said, obviously God's really blessed us, but I've done it all through fishing, and it's been an amazing ride, and it's not one that I'm intend to give up, and ever. I will do this till the day I die, and we got a bright future ahead of us. I'm only 34 years old. Got many, many more years I can do this. But touching on the subject itself at Cayuga, it's one of them deals where I haven't really got to get on here and explain it to you guys in depth, and I'm not going to get in depth, man. I could go on and talk about this for an hour, but there was practically 2 fish in that event that has caused most of this for me. Well, only two fish. And what sucks about all of it is I didn't need either one of those fish to finish where I finished. You could have took both of them fish away from me, and I still finished second. And it was one of them deals that the one on the knockout round, one of them deals where I got the fish up there to the boat and just was having a difficult time really getting that fish stationary up against my boat to be able to get my thumb in her mouth to make sure I had a good grip on the fish, so I wouldn't get a penalty. I try and fish everything as clean as possible. I think I've had like 2 fish landing violations all year this year, and I don't want to lose 2 minutes of fishing. That is incredibly crucial out there on the water. A lot of stuff can happen in 2 minutes, but one of them deals where I got her up there, and a lot of people don't understand. I'd spend multiple days fishing prior to this. I'd spent 2 days on Lake Seneca, which is the sister lake to Cayuga, before practice started on Cayuga. In those 2 days, probably caught somewhere between 175 and 250 smallmouth, between 3.5 and 7 pounds. I mean, it was incredible fishery. And, handling all them fish with your hands, these giant smallmouth, and 2 days of practice on Cayuga, 2 days of the tournament on Cayuga, catching tons and tons of big smallmouth. My hands were sore, man. I mean, it was the first tournament of the year that we legit caught them. I mean, you could really catch fish. And so my hands were a little soft still. And, it was just one of them deals. It was a struggle all week to get them big smallmouth really up against the boat, get them pinned, get a good grip on them, to know that when you got them over the side of the boat, you weren't going to lose them. You can see this fish come by the boat. The bait's right there in the corner of her mouth. My fluke had kind of slid up my line just a little bit, but I didn't know exactly how good this fish was hooked until after I, got her in the boat. And it was one of them deals. You can literally see me take the bait right out of her mouth. I mean, it's my boat official standing right there beside me. I knew he saw that. The boat officials by day 5 of the event, which was at Cayuga, the knockout round was day 5 of the event. They were tired of hearing guys say in the mouth. That was my first true sight fishing tournament in my 14-year career that if you weren't looking at them, you just weren't catching them. Usually when we go to sight fishing events, I figure out other ways to catch them. Are the fish I'm catching on beds? Yes, but I'm blind casting to them. I don't like to get up there and mess with looking directly at them. It's a lot of fun. I do it for fun a bunch, but it's not something I want to do in a tournament because you have to worry about possibly hooking one outside the mouth. You have to worry about all the time you can waste on a fish that you're not realizing you're wasting. There's just a lot of things that go into it. So I prefer to just blind cast at spawning fish. But at Cayuga, these smallmouth, most of them are so shallow that you just couldn't. You couldn't if you weren't looking at them. You weren't going to catch them. I mean, yeah, you could flog and find some, but most of those smallmouth were in that 4 to 4.5 pound range. I didn't find any big ones out there doing that. But anyways, back to it. Like I said, on that fish, it was one of them. I knew my boat official all my boat officials had already told me going into each day that the very first thing we're looking for is if that fish is hooked inside the mouth. That's the first thing they're looking for. And I already knew he had verified that. I mean, it wasn't something I had to say in the mouth. I already knew he knew it was in the mouth. Do I wish I could go back and have pointed that out? Absolutely. I did. I wish I'd been more diligent. Wish I would have said that, voiced that. When you're out there competing, you don't necessarily think about that. Half the time, I don't even realize I've got a camera in my boat when I do. I mean, I am strictly competing. This is my job. It's my livelihood. I'm not thinking about all of that. I'm strictly, very tunnel vision into what I'm doing and trying to get a job done. The second fish, which is the one I've taken the most flack over, was the one where I got the hook in my finger. And that one really sucks because that wasn't a sight fish. That was legit the only smallmouth I had the entire week of Cayuga that I never saw. This sucker was completely under a dock walkway, could not see him in any way, shape, or form. Never saw this fish the entire event, not one time. It was a dock that I was fishing the last day of practice, skipped a chatterbait up under there, caught a 522 smallmouth, and there was 3 big ones chased him out. They were all in that 3 to 6 pound range. And when I started the the morning of the knockout round and caught that 511, that dock wasn't far from there, and I ran up to that dock. First cast under there with the Ned rig, I caught a 511. And I was like, dang, So I went on, fished rest of the day, got up to the 26 or whatever. I came back the second period, back to that dock, fired under there again. I caught a 5.8 my second cast. 2 totally different fish, and there was a 7-pound largemouth chased out that smallmouth. And you can see me on camera. I'm talking, 7-pound largemouth. Picked up a wacky, threw into there for probably 5 minutes. Never got another bite. Went on about my day. Come back in the championship round, and I didn't start on that dock, but I pulled up to that dock in the first period, and I caught a 510, first or second cast. So I knew there was quite a few fish under this dock. Hadn't realized until the championship round when I caught the fish that morning that, hey, there's obviously probably a fish on a bed under there, but I couldn't see that with my eyes at any point. This fish was out in like 5 or 6 foot of water. It was probably one of the deepest ones there. I still don't know for sure if there was a fish there on a bed. I don't know that. I never could see under there, so I don't know. I'm just assuming now that there was. But I go back the second period at that dock. already knowing, I've had the discussion with my boat official that if I caught a bass that we did not know, well, let me back up. If I caught a bass that I was not visually fishing for, it had to be hooked in the mouth. I already knew the answer to that. Everybody knows the answer to that. Whether the fish is on a bed or not, if you can't see it in the act of fishing for it, it doesn't have to be hooked in the mouth. I already knew that. He already knew that. But when you're seeing everybody out there catching smallmouth on beds and you're visually looking at them, you're just assuming they're all being caught stop-fish. Well, 99.9% of them were, but this was one that wasn't. And I had nothing to hide. I already knew the fish didn't have to be hooked in the mouth before I ever even got her up to the boat. But she was inside the bottom of the lip. When I had that one next to the boat, struggling, the fish is using the leverage of the side of my boat to try and wedge herself out from behind my hand. I was about to lose total control over. Now I'm taking my right hand, trying to push this fish back into my left hand to get a better grip on her. And in the process, I'm taking these 3 fingers here, trying to get her mouth open. Happen to run my pointer finger straight dead into the middle of my Ned hook, and it buried up. I mean, you see that. I end up having to cut it out. It was a really sucky situation. It looks really bad. I mean, going back and watching the footage now, I can see why people had an issue. At the time, nothing in my head was wrong. I mean, I knew what was going on. I knew what I was doing. There was nothing ever at any point in time in those catches, either one of those 2 catches, did I think, man, this could look bad. There just wasn't. I mean, I knew what was up. But now going back and watching, I see where the issue is. I mean, it does look fishy, I suppose. But the deal is it's all revolved around sight fishing. Had that been out in the middle of Lake St. Clair or out in the middle of Lake Erie, nobody would ever even bat an eye at it. And you can go back and watch fish catches from me over the last 5 years with smallmouth in tournaments where I couldn't use a net, and you will see that that's happened multiple times. I always put them next to the boat, and sometimes it takes me 10 seconds to get a good grip on them to get them over the side of the boat. I wasn't unhooking anything. I would never do that. Cheating is just not a part of my vocabulary, especially when it comes to fishing. I mean, I won't even cheat when I'm playing a board game with my kids or something. There's to me, no satisfaction in doing something like that. I take a lot of pride in my fishing, and it's the one thing I've ever been really good at. And I don't need to cheat. I mean, I'm just not going to. People that know me know that, and there's been a lot of them has reached out to me this week. I've had so many supportive calls, texts, messages, people reaching out to me. And guys, I really appreciate that. It's been overwhelming, honestly, at the support that I have received since this has happened. You guys are awesome. Could not be thankful enough for you. And it really shows that we really do have a great support system out there, a lot bigger support system than we know. But, I don't have anything bad to say about anybody in MLF. They had to do what they had to do, felt like they needed to do. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to say whether I feel like it. To me, I know what I feel like. But to them, they had a decision they had to make, and that's the one that they went with. I don't have to agree with it. But like I said earlier, it's part of the game. And it is what it is. At the end of the day, it is what it is. We've got, like I said, a very bright career ahead of us, many, many more years to fish. And I'm looking forward to all of them. MLF is a great tournament organization, in my opinion. I started my career with them in 2007, actually 2006. And I couldn't be happier with where I've been able to elevate my career using their tournaments. They have a great method of being able to allow anglers to get to the top of the game, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. They run a great tournament trip. I mean, they just do. I've enjoyed my year this year on the Bass Pro Tour. It's been a lot of fun. I really have learned a lot, especially since this Cayuga event. I've really, truly learned a lot, and I see where I can make a lot of improvements going forward. Definitely going to be doing that. And, just had to get on here and tell you guys the way I felt about it, give you my 2 cents. There's going to be people that's going to say, he's lying. He definitely cheated. Man, I can't change those people's mind. If that's the way they feel about it and how they want to feel, they're going to think that no matter what. I mean, I could literally stick it right in their face and prove it. They're still gonna hate on you. And anything you do, that's just the way a lot of people are. I know there's a lot of people that might be on the fence and on whether I did or didn't. It's a decision that you'll have to make on your own. I'm giving you the honest to God truth. And then I've got a lot of people that just know, and that's great. But hopefully we never have anything like this happen again. Going forward, I see a lot of things that I can do differently to keep this from ever happening again. And I can assure you, I've always been one of them people that try to keep stuff like this from happening. I call the tournament director at any point in time in a tournament, practice, anything I'm doing. If I think it might be an issue or could become an issue, I always make sure to call and ask, get pre-approval, tell him I'm doing this or I need to do this, make sure I can. I've always been like that. Every tournament director that's ever dealt with me would attest to that. That's just the way I am. I don't want to break any rules. I've been doing this for, I would say this is 15 years now that I've been making a living fishing exclusively, and I've never broken a rule to my knowledge. I've never been disqualified before. I've never been protested. And I take a lot of pride in that. I mean, I just try to do everything by the book. And there's a lot of guys out there like that. There's a lot of guys that try to bend the rules, live in the gray area. And in my opinion, if you're not breaking a rule, have at it. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. But I don't try and bend rules, and I don't try to live in a gray area because if anybody is going to get in trouble for trying to do that, it's going to be me. It's just the way it seems like it's always been. So I try and stay away from anything that I feel like could get me in trouble, and especially when it comes to fishing, because it means that much to me. And it means that much to my family as well. Like I said, they depend on me and my fishing and my tournament finishes. And like I said, it's created an amazing life for us in the last 5 or 6 years. I couldn't be more thankful for that. And I look forward to very, very many more years doing this. And guys, had to get on here. Had to get that off my chest, lay that out there for you guys. And I know a lot of y'all have been wondering when I was going to get out and say something. And y'all deserved it. And I'm glad that I was able to get on here and do this. We'll see you guys at Saginaw. Hopefully we'll get redemption up there. I've spent like 3 days on that place ever. And I'm looking forward to getting up there and seeing if we can figure out how to catch some really big smallmouth and have a win up there. That'd be a great way to finish the season with a win. We can still qualify for Red Crest. I'm in 38th in points. I don't think anybody's ever qualified for Red Crest with a disqualification. And so that's a positive I can take from it. I could be the first one to ever do that. And looking forward to it, guys. We'll see you up there at Bay City, Michigan, Lake Huron, Saginaw Bay, this coming week, Stage 7. See you then.
All right, mates, there you go. Spencer Sheffield in his own words. And I got to tell you, I believe that had this exact video came out 24, 48, 72 hours after all the viral videos actually hit the internet, I don't think it would have been DQ'd. It's just one of those things where, guilty by 20-second video. I think he explained it. You guys know from my videos, I never really thought that Spencer Sheffield was like, it was some egregious violation in which he should have been the only one DQ'd. I thought that he may have gotten DQ'd along with other people wrapped up in it all, but I never imagined that he would be the only angler to be DQ'd from the Cayuga event based on all the things that we saw. And the fact that he was the only angler raised a lot of suspicion for a lot of people, a lot of podcasters, a lot of people who follow the fishing community, simply because of his reputation of never, kind of like he said, never being a guy doing sketch stuff, never being a guy who's floating around that red area, right? And so gray area. So, I mean, it's interesting to hear him put it into words finally, a month and a half after the event. And I just feel like now maybe people will have a little bit of perspective of humanizing these competitions about these anglers. A guy with no issues in his past, not even any complaints by other anglers about him on the water, in competitions, or anybody raising any suspicions about him over the years. And yet he's the only one DQ'd from this event. I think his video gives you a really insight into the mindset of a 34-year-old angler and what they have to deal with on these trails. And how, unfortunately, a lot of it may come down to not who you are, but who the names are on your jersey a lot of times now is what's being raised in a lot of the groups and on the podcast. That somehow, the guys who had the major sponsors don't get the same level of scrutiny that some of the anglers have gotten. And the two things I want to point out before I dip here is, one, I never really understood the logic that if he missed the Saginaw event, that he no longer could be invited back on the Bass Pro Tour, when we've seen Keith Boucher miss events all the time. And he's still allowed to fish. So I don't know whether that's Keith missing Bass events because he was fishing MLF events. Maybe that's the case. Maybe there's something in the contract or in the rules. I just haven't seen it. And if that is the case, then, please comment in the comments. Because I know Keith's missed Bass events. I think he's missed the MLF event for Bass too as well. I'm not really sure. So I have to look into that. That was kind of interesting. So he's got to pay his fines now. He's probably already paid them. Maybe his sponsors are paid. I don't know how that works. But he did say he's fishing in Saginaw Bay. And the second point is a vital point that people need to understand is his boat official did go on record as stating he saw the hook in the mouth. Okay? That's a very, very hard thing to get over if you were in a real court of law, a real court, not whoever judged this situation. Because you have an eyewitness in the boat, okay? An official in the boat who says in his own words in a statement that went out on Facebook in groups that, and I published it on my J.L. Scott fishing page. You can see it there before it was taken down on other areas. That's another suspect of why it was taken down. But the official says he saw the fish in the mouth. So how can you disqualify an angler for not having demonstrating hook and mouth when the official states that he saw the hook in the mouth? So very weird there in terms of that. So the violation was simply he didn't tell the official, or was the violation there was no hook and mouth visible in the video that was released? And again, Spencer Sheffield had probably the harshest little clip video of any of the people, but we know other anglers on the Cayuga event did sketch stuff. Like, we know. We had anglers say they were going to go back and catch the same fish again. Like, they said that. Like, I mean, again, it's just hard to comprehend that in the situation that we saw, bed fishing and sight fishing on Cayuga Lake, when Cayuga was closed to everybody else except for the MLF anglers for the pre-fishing and for the event during the restriction period on Cayuga, that he was the only one who got DQ'd. Again, not trying to legitimize. I'm just saying that's the problem that people have with it. People have more of a problem with others not being DQ'd than they do with Spencer being DQ'd. The biggest issue is that Spencer was the only one. Based on his history, his reputation, and the boat official and everything, that's the issue people have, not really the verdict of the DQ, but just the fact that, okay, well, if you were going to DQ him, you should have probably DQ'd at least one and potentially two other anglers in the process to make a real big statement to clean things up. But they didn't. So hopefully Spencer dropped about 20 points, I think, in the race, down to 38. He said, hopefully he gets into it. Hopefully he does win and finish in the top 5 in Saginaw Bay.